Hello, and welcome to this new tutorial. Well, it's been a while, I know. I moved country and I didn't have access to a computer for a while, but now I do. So I'm back to making tutorials. And today we are making a inventory system. It's actually a bit more than just a simple inventory system. We'll get into it and you guys can see. So I have an inventory here, as you can see. It's currently empty. And then I can pick up items, like so. And now I have a bunch of items. What I can do, I can drag them around. You can swap places. I can split item if I wanted to. I can split them to however much I want. Let's see here. I can put them on top of each other to merge them. So I can merge the item. You can delete the item if you wanted to, and you can even equip the items. So if I right click on it, you can see right clicking can equip it. Also you can drag and drop also if you wanted to, instead of right clicking, or you can just right click on them to equip and unequipping them. And they even give you stats. Let's say if I click on this, as you can see here, my ability system component debug here, I have 0 health, 0 attack and 0 defense. But let's say if I equip this, now I have 100 health, 5 attack and 10 defense. You can consume things like potions. As you can see, it goes on cooldown, and you can even drag them into your skill bar here. And you can use them from the skill bar, but right now it's on cooldown, so I can't use it. But as you can see, you can press your buttons and you get some feedbacks that you're trying to use whatever is in the slots, right? So this is quite a nice system, and you can actually do more than just this. So let me just drag this in, and I'll show you in another project I expanded on this just a little bit more. Because I have many versions of this, because I've been working on this for quite a long time now. I've done this over and over like 20 times already. So if I pick up items here, it's pretty much the same thing, but here I also have this, which is a enchantment window. If you want, in many games you can enchant your gears and stuff, right? So here if I do this, as you can see, it auto-populates the material that is required also. So now if I click enchant, you'll see, and this is the chance of it successfully enchanting. So I got 2+1 as a success. So if I keep pressing it, as you can see, the chances is going down. Now it's only 60%. I can click, and I got my first failed at +7. It's a 20% chance. So now if I wanted to increase my chances, I could just drag in another material in, and as you can see now it's at 25%. So if I remove it, I have 20%. I drag this in, 25% chance. Now, oh, look at that, it was success. And as you can see, you can keep on enchanting. Failed. Come on. 15%. Oh, here we go. Got to +9. Now I have a 10% chance to go to +10. But you get the idea. So yeah, that's a pretty nice system, and we are gonna learn how to make it. Now it's not gonna be super simple. Like, I'm gonna make this as beginner friendly as possible, but I would expect that you at least know a minimum of C++. Like, if you followed my previous tutorial, then you'll be able to follow this one with ease. You don't really need much, but still, this is kind of, I would say, intermediate level on real coding, I guess. But I'll try to simplify it as much as I can. So yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so let's make a new project. I'm going to use the third person template. So we have a character in the level, but I don't want any C++. I want to start clean. So I'm gonna select blueprint, leave everything as the default, and give it a name. I'm gonna name it inventory tutorial. There we go. And create the project. Okay, Now that I'm in Unreal, I'm going to go to the editor preference. I'm gonna type assets and set this to main window. It's just so that when you open a new window, if you click on something, let's see, now if I click on something, it's gonna open as a new tab instead of a new window. So that's why I did this. And also I'm gonna select the editor. I'm gonna go back to editor preference again and go to source code, and I'm going to be using Rider. You don't have to, but I actually recommend using it. It's pretty good. I'm gonna set it as the default, save, and I'm not gonna restart now. No need to. Alright, so let's make our first C++ class. So the first C++ class that I want to add is going to contain an array. I'm sure you know what an array is, and we are going to use an array to store items in it, right? But we are going to use a special kind of array. It's called a Fast Array Serializer. It's a cool type of array that lets you, instead of replicating a whole array every time one item changes in it, it can replicate only the changed item specifically, which makes it a lot more efficient, especially for an inventory system that will have a lot of items being added, removed, stacked, moved, etc. So this will make it a lot more efficient. And of course it replicates, so we can use it in multiplayer. So it's gonna be awesome for your new MMO. So let's make a new class. I'm gonna make a new C++ class, and I'm actually just going to make a UObject class, so I can have some default in it. It's not needed. I'm gonna make this public, and I'm gonna need this IT because my project is called what is it? Inventory tutorial. And then I'm gonna name this inventory fast array. Alright, and I'm actually going to put this in a inventory folder. I'm gonna keep everything nice and neat, and let me put it in another a subfolder inside of it. I'm gonna call this one replication. This is our replicated array, so I'm going to put it in a replication folder. Alright, it took about a minute, but now it's loaded. Cool. So I'm just going to clean this up a little bit. So I do not need this, do not need this. I do not need any of this, and actually don't even need this. Alright. Cool. This is our blank class. Now, again, a fast array is Unreal's way of replicating an array so that we don't have to replicate the whole thing, but just the slots inside of the array that would change. So let me give you, maybe we'll add a comment here. There we go. I will probably be doing that throughout the course. So I have my project open on the side in the other monitor, so I can just copy and paste stuff from there to here. I'll make it easy for you guys to understand. Anyway, let me just close this in the back. We don't need that, and make this full screen. Alright. Okay, so let's make the array. In order to make that, we'll have to go first into the build file actually. And from here, I want to add a new dependency. You're gonna need it, so I'm gonna add net core, and I'm also going to add the gameplay tags. I think it's called, yeah, gameplay tags. So we need these two, netcore and gameplay tags. Alright, now we can close this. And up here, let's start by adding the include gameplay tag container, and another include for the net. Inside the net folder, we go into serialization, and then we find Fast Array Serializer. That's what we need. And let's make a struct. So this struct is going to be the item or the entry that we put inside of the array. So let's build that. So I'm gonna make a new struct. So a struct, and writer put the code, the default stuff for me, and I'm gonna call this f inventory entry. Alright, so F for structs. I know it's not S, it's F, but yeah. And we need to add a public F Fast Array Serializer item. Alright, so now Unreal will know that this struct is a Fast Array Serializer item that can be replicated inside of a fast array. Alright, so what do we want an item to contain? I would say I would want, the first thing is let's do an int 32 quantity, and I'm gonna set it by default to 0, because we need to know what amount of an item do we have, right? That only makes sense. You can have 10 potions, 100 potions, or 1 potion, or whatever it is, but yeah, we need to have a quantity. What else do we need? I would say we'll need a, let's do another, this one, index, but I'm gonna call this slot indexed, and then index none. Yeah. So a slot indexed, so that we know in what slot inside of the array is the item in. That will be useful because we can then retrieve an item using a slot indexed, or do other things with it, but that's cool. So now we have a quantity, the quantity of the item, and where in the array is it stored. Well, we would probably also need the actual item. So I'm gonna create a gameplay tag here and call this item tag. This will be the tag of the item that this entry contains. Right, it could be potion, it could be great sword, it could be gun, ammo, whatever it is. That's the item tag that we're gonna put in. So an entry for an array contains a item tag, a slot where it's stored, and the amount of the item that we have. So far so good. It's pretty easy. Next, I'm actually going to create a helper here. So I'm going to make a bool is valid entry, and make this a const. Now what this is for is to make sure that everything in the entry is valid indeed. So I'm going to validate everything. So we can do item tag. Oops, what? Nope. What is this? Item tag. Oh my god. Item tag is valid. You can do this, right, to check if it is valid. So you would do something like if item tag is valid, and if it's not valid, so if it's not valid, we can return false. And then we can check the next one, the slot indexed and all that, but I'm gonna write this in a different way. We can write this in this form. So we can return the item tag that is valid directly, and then we can do an actually end and slot indexed, not that Slot indexed, yeah, let's make sure that our slot index is not equal to index none, and that the quantity is greater than 0. So what we are doing here is just checking, is the item tag valid? If not, we return false. If it is valid, we continue checking. So is the slot indexed a slot index none? If it is slot index none, then it's not valid, so we return false. Otherwise, if it is, we can keep going. Is the quantity of the item greater than 0? If it's not, we return false. Why? Because we can't have 0 of an item, or we can have a negative number of an item. So it has to be greater than 1, right? Or greater than 0. So that's all the check that we need here. So every time we get an entry from the array, we can just call this, and this will tell us if the item is valid or not. Alright, so far all we've made is just a struct that contains item tag, index, and quantity. Very easy. Now let's make the actual array that will store all of the entries. So we're gonna use struct and a struct. I'm gonna call this an F inventory. Let's do entry array, and then public generated body. Give it a generated body. There we go. So now we have the struct for the array, and then inside of it, I'm just going to add a T array of my inventory entries and call it entries. So that's the array that's going to contain all of our entries. Good. Yeah. Now I wish this was it and we were done, but we still have a couple more things to add in order for this to work. First, we need to tell Unreal to replicate the entries using the Fast Array Serialization. Alright, I'm just going to add a little comment here. What we are doing here. So how do we do this? So I'm going to make a bool called net delta serialize, and it takes in a net delta serialize info. Okay, I'm gonna call it delta params. Cool, and then we're just going to return a fast array delta serialize f our entry class and the array struct entries delta param and this class. Alright, so that was the first thing that we needed to do. Now we need to do a second thing, is to make a template here using this. We've told Unreal that this array here needs to be replicated using the net delta serialize. Now we need to tell it also that this whole struct is a custom serializer that we want to replicate. So in order to do that, is we have to make a template, like a struct t struct ups trait the inventory array and a t struct ups type trait base 2. I know, complicated names. And again passing in the array, and now make an enum. Oops, nope, no need for any of that. Shit, what did I do? Okay, there we go. And say with net delta serializer equals true. Okay, and no need for this. Alright. So now we are done. So let me put a little comment here to help you understand what's going on. So basically, the net delta serializer that we made here is defining how to replicate the array, and this one is just telling Unreal that this struct actually has that custom serializer that needs to be replicated. So a little recap so far. We've made an entry. The entry contains a item tag, the slot where the item is stored, the quantity of the item. This is just to check if the item is valid or not. Now we made an array here, and this is just some boilerplate to tell Unreal, well, replicate this thing for us. That's it. Hopefully that makes sense. Now we're gonna leave this empty for now. We don't need to add anything in it. Great. Okay, now that we have our entry and array, we just have to give this to an actor so that they can have an inventory. In order to do that, I'm gonna go to the public and add a new class. I'm gonna use an actor component because you can put an actor component on an actor. In this case, I'm gonna actually put this on the player controller. Why the player controller? Because if your character dies and you lose access to your character, well, you still want to be able to have access to your inventory. That's why I'm gonna put this on the player controller, because the player controller will still lives even if you get rid of the character. Okay, so let's create a inventory component, I guess. Component. I'm going to put this in the inventory folder inside a component folder. Yep. Now let's clean this up a little bit. I don't need any of that. There we go. And while I'm here, let's put this to false. We don't need this to tick. And also let's do set is replicated by default. We do need this to replicate. Cool. Let's go back to here now. Okay. So what I want is to give this inventory component an inventory, right? Because we have our inventory here, but we've created this array. I need to give one to this component, so that when we put this component on a player controller, that player controller will have an inventory. So I'm actually going to make a protected section. And here is where I'm going to add the inventory. So I'm going to make a U property, mark it replicated, and then add the, well, I can't add the F inventory array entry array yet. I have to put the include first. So inventory, application, and here. Now I can add it. Otherwise it's going to complain. So F inventory entry array inventory. Alright, now we have an inventory. So we can put stuff in it, remove stuff from it, move stuff around, and whatever we need to do. Great, now this is replicated, and if you've ever replicated anything in Unreal, you know that we need a function for that. We can't just put replicated here. So we need a virtual void get lifetime replication props. We need this function. That's the function that's going to replicate this for us. So let's create it and include the net/Unreal network. This is needed, and now we can do a do rep lifetime, and I'm gonna do this class inventory. Now my inventory is now being replicated. Cool. Okay, next, since now we have the inventory, we can do stuff to the inventory, like adding an item. So let's do that next. So I'm going to make a U function, a function to add an item. But now we have to think about this. We can't just add an item to the inventory. See, if you're making your super awesome MMO game, you don't want people to cheat, because we're gonna cheat. And to mitigate that a little bit, we'll make it so that only the server can do operation on the inventory. So only the server will be allowed to add, remove, or move things around in the inventory. And the client is just going to request the server to do an operation on the array, like to add, remove, or whatever it needs. So let's do that. So I'm going to make this first a blueprint callable function. Give it a category, inventory, and a subcategory of, I'm gonna do request. I'm gonna make a void and call this request add item. So right now we are not adding an item, we are requesting to add an item. And next I'm gonna add a server RPC, so that so the client calls the server and tells the server to do the operations. So let's make a new U function and make a server. It has to be reliable, of course, and make a void server request item. That's what our client will call. And then finally I'm gonna make a new function. This time let's do subcategory of authority. This is where the magic happens. So let's do a bool, because I want it to return if the operation was successful or not. So if we try to add something, I want to get back true or false. So true if it was added, or false if it was not. And I'm gonna call this try add item authority. Okay, so the client will call the server, and the server will finally call this function that will actually do the operation. Now we do need to pass a few things inside of these functions. For instance, if we are requesting to add an item, well, we need to tell the function what type of item we are trying to add. So for instance, we need to tell it the tag of the item, possibly the slot that we want it to go into, the quantity of the item also. So let's include that here. So we should pass in a gameplay tag and f gameplay tag called item tag. That's one thing. And actually I'm not going to pass in the slot, but I'm going to pass in the int 32 1tt, and they all need that same thing. So let's do that. So the client will pass that to the server, and the server will use this inside of this function to actually add the item. Cool. Now let's implement these functions. Alright, I'm just gonna move this up. There we go. And let's do return here, so it stops complaining, return false. There we go. So now we have a request, we have a server that will call the actual adding of the item. Now we have to think about this a little bit more. We are requesting to add an item by passing in an item tag and a quantity, which is good. But we actually need a bit more information than this. What I mean by that is, let's bring this up here. If we press play, you'll see that I have a player inventory here, I have a skill bar, and I have some equipment slots thingy here, and they are all their own inventory. So this, for example, is a player inventory, this is a skill bar inventory, and this is a equipment inventory if you want. So now my UI needs to know what item belongs to which inventory so that it can display it correctly. So if I pick up an item, right now in my array, these item all belongs to the player inventory. That's why my widget here can display them, because it knows, okay, look inside the array, find every item that belongs to the player inventory and show them here. And these ones are looking, for example, my skill bar is looking for all the item inside of the inventory too, and looking for all the item that belongs to the skill bar inventory. And currently there's none, so it doesn't display anything. Same for this one. So if I would drag this here, now I've swapped the inventory. So on the inside of my array, I've told it that this item now belongs to the skill bar inventory. So my skill bar inventory is able to show it, and it does not belong to the player inventory anymore, so my player inventory cannot show it. So there's an extra information that we are providing here. We are telling it what inventory is the item going inside of, what inventory it belongs to, and we should be passing that here. So if we want this to go inside a player inventory, we should be able to tell that. So we are going to add that piece of information also. So I'm going to go back to my fast array here and add a new U property. It's going to be an F gameplay tag, not an item tag, but a container ID. I'm going to call this, or you can call it container tag also, but I'm going to call it container ID. Now, what's the container ID for? Well, this ID will say, for example, it can say player inventory. So when we create an item or an entry, we can tell it, this is the item that I want you to have. So potion, go inside this slot, put this amount, and also have the tag of, let's say, player inventory. So now when my widget, when I open my inventory widget, for example, it's going to go through all the item, all the entries inside the array, look for all of them, and then it's going to check if they contain player inventory in their container ID. If they do, then it will display them. If they don't have it, it doesn't display it. And for example, my skill bar will do the same thing. My skill bar widget will check the inventory array and check for this tag here and check if they have the tag of skill bar inventory. If they do, then it will show the item, otherwise it won't show it. So that's what this is for. So let me just add a little comment here also to help you understand. Here we go. Cool. Now we have the container. So let's go back here and add this extra piece of information now. And voila. Now we have now we're also passing the container ID, so we know we know where this is going. For example, if you pick up an item, by default I would want it to go inside the player inventory, and then from there I can move it into my skill bar, or I can equip the item if I wanted to, but by default I would want it to go inside my player inventory. So we can say that here. Where is this item going? I can tell it, well, player inventory is where I want this to go. Cool. Alright, I think I'm gonna stop here for now. In the next tutorial we're gonna work on these. So like, comment, and subscribe. And I do have a Patreon. If you're interested in that, you don't have to, but if you want to support me, the next tutorial is probably already uploaded there if you want to have a look at it. And the project files also, I'm going to put this project also there. And yeah, that's it. Hope you've enjoyed. See you in the next one.